Hey, everybody, welcome back to this episode of Think Business Live. Looking forward to talking with Deanna Singh. Deanna, how are you? I was about to say good morning, but how are you? Good afternoon.
I'm wonderful. Great to see you.
Yeah, you too. Deanna, you are a leadership and DEI expert. So we're going to dive into that. I want to give a quick bio. You're a founder and chief change agent of the social impact holding company Flying Elephants, known for giving audiences the tools and courage to imagine, activate, and impact the world. A trailblazer, a dynamic speaker on social change. And so let's talk about that. For those, I want to start off very fundamental. And for those who are saying, wait, DEI, what does that stand for? Or remind me what it stands for. So let's just talk fundamentals.
Absolutely.
Define DEI.
Absolutely. So DEI is what we use to talk about diversity, equity, and inclusion. And I think it's really important to understand that there's a lot of people who use a lot of different words to talk about these topics, right? I think the most important thing for me is thinking about what are the things that we are doing as business leaders, as owners, as people who are really setting the course for the way that our economy is going to grow. What are we doing to make sure that we can make the space possible for everybody to feel included, and not just included, but really being able to thrive at the core of the work that I do? That's the most important thing.
I love it. Okay, so let's talk into let's dive into that. Right. I think what organizations do. What can they do? Let's talk to the basics first, right? So somebody who's knows they need to do more. What do they do? What does that conversation sound like in the boardroom? What does that conversation sound like to the company? Right?
Well,
how do you have the conversation without sounding ignorant?
Well, the first thing you could do is you could buy up the book that I'm writing. So I am writing Actions Speak Louder.
I love the self-plug. Yeah.
It's not coming out until May of next year, but we're already going to start the pre-sales for those.
Good.
And the reason why I say that, though, is it's not just to be self-promoting, but it really is because I think that the title of the book is the answer to that question. The title of the book is Actions Speak Louder. And so my question to leaders, and I get to work with companies all over the world. I talk to over 5,000 people a week. So this is something I am constantly having conversations about. And one of the number one things that I tell our leaders to do is to think about, what are you actually doing? Right? We have a lot of people who are very comfortable having conversations. I mean, it's like with any, strategic kind of thing or thing that is a little bit scary. We like to plan. We like to, spend a lot. We like to do a lot of investigation. We do, but sometimes when it's time to make that move to taking action, that's where we get the most nervous, right? That's where we get stuck. And so I think the first thing is, what is it that you want to achieve? Why are you trying to achieve it? Getting real clarity on what diversity, equity, inclusion can mean for your business and what not doing it means for your business, right? Because there is a cost here of not taking action. And then really thinking about, what does that mean for me? What does that translate into what I can do or should be doing as an organization?
Yeah. All right, good. Let's talk about what you should not be doing. How you should not, what not doing it will cost, right?
Yeah.
So let's talk about that, because I think people can connect to the pain of things, right? So what does that mean to a company today? Not only today, but I mean, we're sitting here November 5th, 2021. So what does it mean today? And what does it mean 5 years and 10 years from today?
Well, I think it means a couple of things. But, first of all, let's just think about what is happening right now in our in the world of employees. When we think about how hard it is right now to recruit employees into our organization. John, I work with organizations that come from all different sectors. I don't care if you're in tech, if you're in finance, if you're in, healthcare, everybody is struggling right now.
Big time.
People into their teams. Well, guess what? You know who's not struggling? It's the organizations who have taken this idea of inclusion really seriously, because people are looking for cultures where they know that they can show up fully and completely. And so really the people who are thriving right now, even despite all of the challenges, are the ones who had the foresight to think about what do we do to create a culture and a reputation for being a place where people can come and be their full selves. So number one, you want to be competitive as it retains not just to today but tomorrow and the next day and the days after that in the employee market. One is making sure that you create an authentic uh, understanding of with other individuals about how important it is to be an inclusive environment. So I think that's one. Just
But
thinking.
talk about what that really looks and feels like, right? So, it's, let's look at just like a corporate company, right? Just like a typical corporate company. Um, be yourself, but sometimes if you say the wrong thing, you can get yourself in trouble, no matter who you are, right? And so what are some of the boundaries? I think that's where sometimes companies struggle. It's like inclusion, yes, be yourself, yes, but don't, there is a line at some companies, right?
Oh
And
yeah.
so just can you kind of define that? Because I think it's like, sometimes I was on a podcast yesterday, and I was on I had the author of basically the concept was how you manage through love. But what is not lost in that is you still have to have extreme accountability,
Oh yeah.
right? You can manage from the heart, but you still have to have accountability, right? So it's not like everyone's, walking through, blah, blah, you understand what I'm saying. So
Oh
kind
yeah.
of define that for that C-level exec that doesn't understand how to bridge that.
So first of all, I think the number one thing to do is to look at what your company values are to begin with. A lot of what we focus on is the fact that this isn't about adding things on. This is about doing what you're already doing better.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the mind shift that has to happen because I think a lot of times we think about, oh, diversity, equity, inclusion work. Well, I put that in the same bucket that I put charitable work or that I put, no, no, no. This has to be what we think about when we think about our strategy and when we think about the core of what our companies are all about. So the
Hmm.
very first thing that I do when we bring on a consulting client is I look at their mission and vision. I want to understand what your values are. I
Yeah.
want to know what is it that is at your very core, because if I can understand that, and we know that implicitly that's what people are signing on to when they decide that they're going to be your client or they decide that they're going to be your employee, right? Or they're going to work
Yeah.
with you in any kind of be on the board. They are implicitly signing on to those core things. So the first is to start there, because there are some things that you have to say as an organization. If this is what we value, then there is a spectrum of things that are outside of that that are not going to be part of what we can
Yeah.
accept, right? That
Yeah.
are not
Well said.
part of what we
Yeah.
do. And so that is always, I think, the most important way to come at
Yeah.
this. And here's what you shouldn't do. So you asked that question, what you shouldn't
Well,
do.
let me share one thing real quickly. As a
Yeah.
business coach and I work, you're talking to 5,000 people a week, which is incredible. I work with solopreneurs to fortune companies and everything in between. But I am also seeing, I just want to kind of highlight this. I am also seeing people at companies reevaluating their personal values in a post-COVID world with the values of their company and making choices of companies to go work for and or start their own that are in alignment with those core values. And it's the first time I've seen it in a long time where it really is pushing people to do what is um, right to their soul, right? I think we're moving closer and closer to that, and I think we'll see that as we continue to get through the next couple of years.
Yeah, and so I think the days of like, let's just throw some, nice sounding words up on a board
Correct.
or
You
up
got
on
to
our,
live them.
yeah, are over, right?
Yeah.
People want to be able to, they're going to hold you accountable to it. And so that's the place to start. How are you
Yeah.
going to hold yourself accountable to it? Because that is where you're going to get the authentic, like that's the authentic feeling, right? That's
Yeah.
whether or not somebody believes what you're doing. And it also helps you put up your guideposts.
Yeah.
What is it that we can accept and what is it that we can't accept? And so, the questions about the nuances of what can we say, when can we say it, how do we involve all of those questions? If they don't start there,
Yeah.
you're already behind.
All right. So I interrupted you. You were starting to say more about what people are not doing.
Yes. So I think one of the things that happens when you don't start there is that you end up coming off as like you're just checking the box, right? You end up coming off as, oh, this is just something that's like soup du jour, right? This is the topic of the day, and so we're just going to do things that don't fit with who we are, and people can see that a mile away, right? So I think that that's where we start to get into some of these problems. Is
Yeah.
we take steps into places that really we have no business going into, because it doesn't align with our company values or our company vision or mission.
Yeah. And talk about, you know, how people can utilize you, right, in your services when they don't know what to say or how to bring it up or how to articulate it, right? Because I think a lot of times what I see is people don't know what to say. And then if they say something, they say, oh, wait, maybe I shouldn't have said that. Or, I brought it up because that's how I knew how to bring it up. And that doesn't match what I'm really feeling. I may have gotten a word wrong. And so I think because in this arena, there's uncertainty, they don't know what to say, which is why, right? You were plugging your book. I'm going to plug you, which is why they need somebody like you to say to them, hey, this is how you bring up the discussion. This is how you engage conversation on this discussion. This is how you evolve the level of consciousness within your organization, with your people, et cetera. Can you kind of talk on that?
Yeah, I really appreciate the question, because I think sometimes what happens, because of how we have, connotated this idea of diversity, equity, inclusion, we sometimes forget that there is a degree of expertise that comes to this. So, for example, you would never want me to come in front of your group ever and try and have a conversation about the future of tech. Right. I could tell you about a couple of articles that I've read. I could do whatever, but inevitably I would say the wrong thing. I wouldn't have the right. And so this fear of saying the wrong thing, like stepping off message, not being able to really fully articulate. This is not a new thing, right? This is not something that we don't experience in other spaces. The reason why it feels even more uncomfortable, though, and we make choices to bring in and try and step into it, is because it's related to social identity. And so one of the things that I would just really recommend is that if this is something that you do have some trepidation about, it's new for you, you're not really sure, first of all, that's okay. Right? If you were going into any other space that was completely outside of what your scope of reference was or expertise was, what would you do? You would bring in some support. So I think it's totally okay to admit, like, no, I don't really know that much about this. I have the sense that this is the right direction to go. It matches our company values, but we actually need the support. There's no shame in getting that support. The same way there would be no shame in me contacting somebody for tech support and to walk me through that process and to put that as part of my strategy together, because I know that that's not part of my area of expertise or zone of genius, that you might say, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one thing. I think the second thing is acknowledging the fact that because it is so wrapped up in our social identity, that this isn't just work where we can pull up an Excel document and you and I can have a lovely conversation, make some strategic decisions and kind of close, feel good about it. That it's not going to be work that is as clear cut as some of the other areas of our business, right? This is, for many, uncharted territory. It also requires some personal work. This is
Yeah.
some leadership and some deep work. Some of the most profound moments that we have with the leaders that we work with is being able to step back for a second and just reflect on some questions around how we show up in the world, right? And
Yeah.
how our own identities might impact the way that we feel about certain topics, and why our feathers might get ruffled when we hear certain things, or why we get really nervous or anxious or have fear. You have to address some of that internal kind of things as a leader, and
Yeah.
the murkiness of that, in order to ever get onto the space where you can get some level of comfort.
Yeah. Well said. Again, I said this earlier, we're sitting here November 5th, 2021. But what is our discussion going to sound like when you and I are talking November 5th, 2030?
Well, first of all, I hope we're having a very different conversation,
Yeah, I
right?
do too. I do too. So what does that hopefully sound like?
I think that what will be different, as we look forward, and this is my hope, this is the aspiration, this is why I get up every morning excited to be able to work with people all over the world. The hope is that we will get to a place where having conversations about inclusion are part of our everyday. They are so ingrained in the way that we do business that it's no longer, it's almost seemed like we can't even remember sort of a time when we weren't having these conversations in every aspect of our
Yeah.
business. I think that once we get to that place, and quite frankly, the companies that are embracing that are the ones that, again, are thriving. And so
Yeah.
I think the more we see of that, the more that becomes the norm, the more we're going to be able to really explore how much more benefit we can make. You know what I think? This is my like
Yeah.
this is what my big belief, right? I think all the big problems that we have in the world, literally whatever that means to you, right? All the big problems that we have in the world, I genuinely believe that all of the solutions already exist. I
Hmm.
don't think that it's a lack of resources. I don't think it's a lack of intelligence. I don't
Yeah.
think it's a lack of will. What I think it is a lack of being able to provide access to the people who hold the answers.
Yeah. Yeah.
Right? We have just not created an environment where
Yeah.
people who are sometimes closest to the challenges that we have are invited into the conversation to help solve.
Yeah.
And that makes me so excited.
Yeah. All right, good. Well, I love that answer. And I think, we all have to reverse engineer and take our own responsibility in being part of the evolution of consciousness of the journey. So I love it. Quick speed round. You ready, Deanna?
I'm ready.
All
Speed.
right. Favorite book and why?
Favorite book is The Alchemist.
Mine too. Mine too.
I
Mine
love
too.
that
It's
story. Just it's
my
beautiful,
favorite. Yeah.
beautiful written. What a
Yeah.
wonderful thing to remind us.
Yeah. Yeah. Love it. Mine too. Best piece of wisdom you've ever received?
Um, hmm. Well, there's so many, but I think one is to never measure your success by your own doing. You measure your success by how those around you are also doing.
I love it. Finish this sentence. One thing everybody needs to do who's feeling stuck right now on this on the DEI topic. One thing they need to do to get unstuck is
To be intentional, right?
Mhm.
To be intentional with your time, be intentional with your thoughts, and really to push yourself outside of your comfort zone. I will tell you, we talk about this and it sounds so serious and it's so scary and it's all these other things, but there is so much joy and so much freeing being able to have conversations without all of the shame, without all of the guilt, without all the to really have the conversations that can move us forward.
Yeah.
And it's worth it, right? Like the little bit of discomfort, I might do something wrong. Well, guess what? You're going to do something wrong. That is part of being a human being.
Right.
It's part of learning and growing. Getting over that and getting on the other side of it.
Yeah.
Whoa, there's so much fun to be had.
So much fun. I always say this. I don't always say this, but when people ask me, a lot of times I'll say, as a business coach, I'll say, you can do everything on your own. I'm just going to get you there 3 years faster. Right. And
Right.
it's the same thing with you. I think companies will maybe figure it out. They'll read the books, they'll this, but using somebody like you will get them there much faster. Right. And
Absolutely.
more comfortably. So I appreciate you taking time to, share your story, your company, your thoughts, your wisdom today. Tell everybody, Deanna, how they can connect with you.
Absolutely. Well, I'd love to have you connect with us on LinkedIn. If you have any questions or there's any way that we can support you, that's a wonderful way to do it. You can also connect with us on our website, which is upliftingimpact.com. That's upliftingimpact.com. We would always welcome people to join the conversation there. We have a number of different resources, some things that are absolutely free that you could do with your team starting today, and other things where we can, as John said, really support you in your strategic development. So
I
we'd
love
love
it.
to have you join us.
I love it. Deanna, I appreciate being on the show. Think community, thanks so much. If Deanna can help you, your organization, or somebody she can, please forward this to them. Deanna, thanks so much. Have an awesome rest of the day.
You too. Thank you.